Wages keep going up, inflation keeps coming down. I've been working nonstop to establish an immediate ceasefire that would last for 6 weeks to get all the prisoners released, to get the hostages home. If you, the American people, send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
This morning, words like fiery and forceful are being used to describe President Biden's State of the Union address. After all, it was as consequential for a president seeking a second term who is being challenged by a former president as many of the issues that he addressed. So joining me now to break down Biden's big speech is North Central College Professor of Political Science, Dean Stephen Caliendo. Thanks for being here this morning.
Good to see you, Anita.
Always love chatting with you. So much to discuss, so little time, so let's get right to it. On the heels of Super Tuesday, this was the framework, really, I think, of the Biden administration's campaign against Donald Trump, even though he was never mentioned by name, just predecessor or a former president. Okay, so President Biden's approval ratings right now leave a lot to be desired. Do you think he stuck the landing with his conversation last night? Was there a moment that you would say, okay, yes, he got his message across?
I think he got his message across. It's a tough, the State of the Union is really a policy kind of address, but in an election year, it's a political address too, so there's no question about that. I think because there's been so much talk about his age and his mental acuity, I think acuity is going to be the word of the year. He had to make sure that he came with good energy. I think he certainly did that. Nobody's going to confuse him with Martin Luther King Jr. in terms of the way he can deliver a speech, but I think where the bar was set, that's what he needed to do, and he got some policy stuff in there as well.
Yeah, you mentioned age, and I don't think that much happens as happenstance when it comes to politics. So the Republican rebuttal to the president's State of the Union address was Alabama Senator Katie Britt, who is the youngest senator to be elected and female from Alabama. Let's listen to a bit of what she had to say, and we'll talk on the other end of it.
President Biden just doesn't get it. He's out of touch. Under his administration, families are worse off, our communities are less safe, and our country is less secure. I just wish he understood.
So there's a message within a message here.
There's no question. Yeah, I mean, it was the age thing, which you got very well, but it was also gender for sure, because of course after post-Dobbs, I think that the Democrats think that they have an advantage on that, and the Republicans wanted to hit that off. And then the second thing was that she was from Alabama.
Yes.
And Alabama, of course, is the state that had the controversial Supreme Court ruling on in vitro fertilization, and so this is going to be a really important to move forward. I think that she would be very effective with the base, the things that she said. And even the way she presented, I think they left her open to some ridicule by putting her in a kitchen, and the fact that seemed like a very rehearsed speech, kind of pretty dramatic. But I think, if folks that enjoyed it probably were going to vote for Trump anyway. I don't know that they gained anything there, but we got 8 months, Anita.
A lot of time and a lot of work for President Biden to do. So he was trying to tout his accomplishments, infrastructure, pharmaceuticals, things like that, but he was also trying to draw a stark contrast to Donald Trump, even in immigration and things of that nature. Right. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, the policy differences, he started with Russia. Because there's some things, he needs to get funding. He's been arguing for funding. A lot of Republicans want to have funding as well for Russia. Same thing with the border bill. There's a border bill that's there. It's a bipartisan bill. A lot of people like it. Former President Trump has suggested that maybe they shouldn't move forward on it. And so he attacked that as well. He's trying to get the Republicans in Congress to come in and buy into some of his ideas, things that there is some common ground. And with respect to everything else, he was pushing back pretty hard.
Okay, I want to get to 2 more things. We have just a little bit of time left. First up, so do you think there were any things that he missed, like a moment he should have taken that he didn't get to?
I don't think so. I think, it wasn't one of the longer State of the Union speeches, but it wasn't one of the shorter ones either. And I think that, when he's effective when he goes off script most of the time. Sometimes the jokes don't land. But remember, he was a member of that body for a long, long time. And so he has personal relationships with so many of them.
Yeah.
So when he looks at Lindsey Graham and calls him by name, or Nancy Pelosi and calls her by name, he's very effective in those moments. Being being self-deprecating about his age and about other things, you have to lean into it, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to convince any of us that he's young.
Yeah.
And so I thought he was very effective in that respect.
Yeah, when he said if I was smart, I'd turn around now. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, okay.
That's the only time the Republicans stood up and clapped, right? Yeah, please do that.
It's like, off
Please do
script.
that.
No, get back on
That's right,
script.
that's right.
Okay, so aside from the speech, there were a lot of other things going on. There was the heckling, and there was also disgraced Congressman George Santos coming back into the fold saying, I'm coming back.
That was wild. I got to tell you, I'm a political scientist. I didn't realize that once you were forcibly expelled from a body, you still could come back and hang out.
I had whiplash.
So he was hanging out, and apparently he went and had a seat first, and then they told him, hey, you know, maybe stand in the back. So he went and stood in the back. He seemed just as happy sort of being back there. He was laughing and having a good old time. So that was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
That was a little bit weird.
What a night. What a night.
Indeed.
Yeah, we said we could talk for 30 minutes if we had it, but we don't.
Okay.
Thank you so much
It's
for your
great to see
time,
you,
though,
Anita.
this morning. In person at that.
It's
We've had
nice,
so many
yeah.
Zoom conversations. We'll send it back over to Natalie and Brian now.